Imagine dedicating your entire life to a group of heroes, being humiliated, having coins thrown in your face, and being expelled like useless trash. That was the destiny of Sotel, an old healer who thought his life was over. But what seemed like the end was only the beginning. Right after being discarded, he is killed by an S-rank demon who reveals a shocking secret. Sotel possessed a terrifying hidden power. When he wakes up, he is not in hell but in the body of a young adventurer. And this time he is not just a support. With the stolen ability of automatic mode and absurd physical strength, he discovers that his body can fight on its own with perfection. From an old failure to a rookie who humiliates veteran warriors with a single punch. Follow now the story of the healer who got tired of being nice and became the greatest nightmare of his enemies. Our story begins with the atmosphere in the tavern grows heavy as they discuss fearfully a terrible monster that hides beneath a human appearance. The conversation turns serious as they confirm that these dangerous beings call themselves the feared and mysterious demonic race. They recall the massacre that occurred 3 days ago in the city of Eldaria, where 7 mages were brutally killed and beheaded. Rumors point to the demonic race as the culprit, raising doubts and fear about whether they truly possess such immense strength. One of the men points out that calling them merely strong does not even come close to describing the true power they have. They say they possess intelligence superior to humans and control a devastating magic far more powerful than that of dragons. No one understands the hunt for mages, but rumors indicate that these monsters are actually searching for a specific human. The scene shifts to a commotion, where an enraged mage shouts and pushes a man away, accusing him of being a filthy old pervert. Caught off guard by the shove, the man falls to the ground in shock, not understanding the reason for such sudden hostility from her. The mage Amila does not hide her fury and accuses the healer of having taken advantage of the treatment to touch her in a dirty way. Faced with the serious accusation, the man breaks into a cold sweat and stammers an apology, visibly intimidated by her anger. Sotel, the healer, desperately tries to explain himself, claiming that the delay and the touch were necessary to cure the poison. A companion tries to intervene in the argument, but Amila reacts immediately, indignantly questioning whether he is going to defend the old man. The atmosphere weighs heavily on the group. Ciro and Radayon try to calm things down, but the mage feels betrayed by their stance. Radayon, with no patience at all, cuts off the subject, saying that looking at the healer's face will ruin the taste of the drink. Completely shaken and humiliated by the harsh words, Sotel merely lowers his head and sadly agrees with the insult. To end the matter, the swordsman throws a few coins on the ground with disdain, dismissing the healer like trash. The group turns their backs and leaves without looking back, completely ignoring Sotel's plea shouted at the door. Sotel stares at the coins on the ground, incredulous, realizing that this pittance is all he will receive for his hard work. Coldly, the group's leader walks away, throwing cruel words about the payment being appropriate for mediocre service. The insults continue, calling him a deadweight healer who only hid in the shadows of the other heroes. The door closes with a heavy bang in front of him, sealing his definitive expulsion and leaving him alone in the night. Inside, the atmosphere is different. The crowd recognizes the magic swordsman Radayon and celebrates the presence of an A-rank group. Murmurs of admiration fill the hall, everyone impressed by the team's aura that would soon rise to rank S. Outside, the silence is broken only by a deep sigh of resignation in front of the locked door. The pain throbs, reminding him of the ignored injuries. A green light shines in his hand as he uses Fey healing. He casts one last look back, his face marked by exhaustion and the bitterness of having been discarded like this. On the ground, scattered copper coins. He grits his teeth, staring at the humiliating payment thrown onto the dirt. Crouching to gather the small change, he questions his own existence, feeling the weight of humiliation in each coin. Alone on the dark street, Sotel gathers his coins and sighs, feeling the weight of exhaustion and loneliness on his shoulders. He looks at the full moon and wonders if this wouldn't be the right time to finally give up this suffering life as an adventurer. But soon he laughs at himself, remembering that without other skills and already too old, he would starve if he stopped now. Sotel shakes his head hard to drive away despair, refusing to focus on problems he cannot change. He forces a smile and decides to go drink to forget, because thinking about the lack of money would only make him more depressed. Suddenly, the silence is torn apart when a purple energy appears out of nowhere, completely surrounding the healer. The impact hits him head-on. Sotel tries to protect himself with his staff, groaning in pain as he is pushed backward. The darkness gleams with lethal slashes. He feels his skin tear and his eyes widen in pure shock and real terror. The world stops and Sotel looks down in disbelief and sees warm blood pouring from his stomach, staining his clothes. The sharp pain finally arrives, and horror takes over his face as he realizes he was brutally wounded in the attack. Warm blood covers his trembling hand. Sotel stares at the vivid red, unable to process that it is his own. A cold and mocking voice emerges from the shadows, asking with irony whether it missed the fatal blow that should have killed him. Sotel searches for the source of the voice and freezes. It is not an ordinary human, for the presence emanating from that figure is pure terror. On top of the rooftop enveloped in purple flames, the silhouette is revealed. Sotel realizes in panic that it is a real monster. The magical pressure is overwhelming. Sotel feels a malignant weight beyond S-rank, something far darker and more powerful. The being introduces himself as Zeon, the third servant of the Demon King, bowing with a macabre and terrifying elegance. His eye shines in the darkness of the hood, and at that moment Zeon smiles sadistically, stating that he has finally found his prey. Sotel freezes upon hearing his own name. The demon decrees his death right there, carrying out a direct order from the king. Floating enveloped in malignant energy, Zeon prepares himself and Sotel panics, not understanding how a demon knows him. The attack is brutal and swift. Sotel barely manages to raise his staff to defend himself from the blade of purple energy coming toward him. Sotel reacts to the impact, gripping his staff firmly to block the energy, gritting his teeth from the physical strain. Without wasting time, he activates angelic healing, and a green light envelopes his hand, closing the severe wound in moments. Zeon smiles, impressed by the speed of the magic, praising the feat, while Sotel breathes a sigh of relief for having managed it. The demon does not wait and launches another wave of energy, forcing the healer to move quickly so as not to be struck. Sotel takes a step back in a desperate movement, narrowly escaping the massive energy blade that tears through the air where he was standing. Zeon questions with a sadistic look whether he will keep holding back, warning that playing around there will result in immediate death. Sotel thinks to himself that he is not playing, feeling the enemy's real bloodlust and not understanding the reason for it. He looks at the floating demon and mentally questions why the Demon King would order the death of a failed healer. Suddenly, Zeon's expression changes to pure shock. The demon's eyes widen, realizing something that made no sense. Zeon stares at Sotel, incredulous, realizing that the human does not even have any notion of the absurd power he carries within himself. The demon laughs with scorn, calling the situation pearls before swine, while Sotel merely stares at him in confusion. Zeon explains that he possesses a millennia-old, extremely rare ability, but finds it pathetic that he is not aware of it. Sotel frowns, shouting in frustration, not understanding anything about that crazy conversation regarding hidden power. Suddenly, the world spins. A red flash cuts through the air violently, interrupting any chance of a response. Sotel feels a strange emptiness. He looks down and sees his leg severed, blood gushing like a fountain. His vision becomes blurred and red. The impact of the blow was so fast that the pain has not even fully registered yet. Zeon advances relentlessly, stating that such power, even incomplete, is a future threat that must be eliminated. Fallen and motionless, Sotel sees the world from a strange angle, with warm blood flowing over his own face. As Zeon bids farewell coldly, Sotel realizes with horror that his body no longer obeys him and that this is his end. As he flies toward death, memories emerge like shards of glass, revealing the cold faces of his former companions. He realizes bitterly that he does not possess a single happy memory, only contempt and arrogance in their gazes. He recalls the cold nights by the campfire, where he was always left aside, trembling alone while they celebrated. The imposing image of Radion haunts him. He was always just an insignificant shadow beneath the greatness of others. The looks of judgment mingle with the shadow of death. Sotel feels that he has been surrounded by monsters his entire life. The final darkness embraces him. Sotel closes his eyes and admits to himself that his life was absolute crap. Suddenly, the cold of death disappears. A vibrant and sunny landscape appears, with calm waters and living nature. His eyes snap open, full of life. The blue shines intensely, as if he had just awakened. On impulse, he sits up on the grass, his body reacting in shock. His heart races as he tries to orient himself. With labored breathing and a trembling gaze, he scans the area, not understanding how he went from hell to that paradise. He is sitting on the grass, feeling the gentle breeze. His body no longer hurts and he feels strangely light and renewed. The surrounding landscape is peaceful, very different from the cold death he expected. The sun shines through the tree leaves. He stares at his own hand, opening and closing his fingers. The skin feels different, firmer, without the marks of time. Confusion takes over. He touches his own chest and feels his heart beating strongly. He is absolutely certain that he died. Standing up, he walks to the riverbank, questioning whether that is real or if he truly returned to life. When he touches his face, he feels something strange. The texture of the skin and the shape do not match the tired old man he was. The reflection in the water reveals the shocking truth. That young and vigorous face is himself, but from many years ago. The calm is broken when three figures appear on the path. They seem surprised and disappointed to see him standing there. Sotel stares at them, trying to recognize those faces, while his mind attempts to process what point in time he is in. The men mock him cruelly, saying that he looked dead yesterday and that it would have been better if he had stayed that way. He looks at the men in confusion, needing a moment to organize the jumbled memories of that strange new life. The large and rude man calls him Tyria with disdain, telling him to get up already from that filthy place and get ready now. From the casual attitude, he quickly deduces that that group of brutes are his supposed companions. The big man's patience runs out. He grabs him violently by the collar, irritated by the confusion and his questions. The man aggressively asks whether the beating he took earlier was so strong that it knocked his memory away. Without waiting, the brute clenches his fist and threatens to hit him again to see if he can force some sense into his head. He notices the scars and realizes that his soul now inhabits the battered and scarred body of a young man named Tyria. The attack comes with full force. The man brings his arm down trying to crush him, but the new Tyria reacts quickly, preparing for the blow. With a confident and dangerous smile, he stares the aggressor in the eyes and coldly comments on the total lack of manners. The brute freezes, breaking into a cold sweat. He realizes in shock that that murderous gaze does not belong to the boy he knew. The big man's eyes widen in shock, sweat running as he realizes that this young man definitely is not Tyria. An intense green light envelopes the young man's body. He conjures fairy healing, regenerating himself with a gentle magic. The skinny companion steps back, incredulous at seeing a healing magic that the old Tyria would never have been able to use in life. With a cold and distant look, he confirms their suspicions, calmly revealing that he is no longer the boy they knew. Ignoring the warning, the brute lets out a maniacal laugh and brings his giant club down with full force to kill. He roars furiously, refusing to accept the change, shouting that a little extra strength will not save him from punishment. Ordering that no one hold back, he charges forward with bloodlust, promising to make the young man regret it bitterly. Sotel feels an old rage bubble up in his chest, but maintains his composure, finding the situation perfect to test his power. He assumes a combat stance, dedicating the fight to the owner of the body as fair payment for the forced loan. The battle truly begins, and our boy does not even wait for those brutes to come and already charges toward them to end this quickly. The skinny one barely has time to react before a firm hand violently grabs his face, silencing his cry of shock. Without hesitation, Sotel slams the enemy's head into the ground with a thunderous crash, making the earth tremble from the force of the impact. He passes by the unconscious body without giving it any importance and, with frightening coldness, asks who will be the next to fall. The gang's leader, blinded by fury at seeing his companion defeated, roars a curse and charges with everything to kill. The heavy punch tears through the air, but Sotel slides downward with a perfect dodge, narrowly escaping the lethal blow. Taking advantage of the opening, he counterattacks with a brutal hook to the stomach, driving his fist deep into the giant's flesh. The brute staggers back, doubled over and choking in pain, while Sotel merely watches, surprised that he is still standing. The fat man breaks into a cold sweat, eyes wide with terror, unable to process how that trash suddenly became so strong. The extra's legs collapse beside the other. Sotel remains unshaken, then he decides to borrow a staff. Wrapped in a threatening blue aura, Sotel casts a piercing look and asks if anyone else wishes to test his strength. The big man breaks into a cold sweat, paralyzed and incredulous, unable to process the sudden change in the posture of the one he despised. He shouts furiously, throwing in his face that, until yesterday, the boy was nothing more than a useless deadweight who depended on the group. Rage distorts his face as he bellows with all his breath, outraged that that trash dares to stand up now. Sotel merely smiles calmly, gripping his weapon firmly, and nostalgically comments on how familiar the word useless is to him. Losing his reason, the giant charges with a brutal blow, determined to crush the opponent in a single attack of pure fury. But Sotel, who is an adventurer to his very soul, declares that real experience comes from having survived countless battles. With impressive agility, he dodges the heavy charge and prepares his counterattack in a perfect motion. The wood meets flesh with extreme violence, sinking into the aggressor's face and deforming it with the weight of the impact. With an icy look, he teaches that wielding power without using one's head is nothing more than a childish and pathetic tantrum. The final blow sends the man flying away, proving that he was not a match even for a simple rank F adventurer. The impact against the tree is brutal, making the giant spit blood and black out instantly, completely defeated by that strike. Sotel takes a deep breath, observing the silence that settles over the forest after the battle, without even breaking a sweat. Looking at the opponents on the ground, he wonders ironically whether he did not exaggerate a bit in strength against mere children. Admiring his agile physique, he does not understand how someone with such a blessed body could could be treated like trash by everyone there. Surrounded by the aura, he finds it strange that he can use healing magic, since that physical body should belong to the young Tyria. Accepting that he reincarnated, he faces this unexpected second life, full of doubts about which path he should walk now. Something fallen in the grass catches his attentive gaze, making his blue eyes widen with sudden and intense curiosity. He takes a step forward and finds a folded envelope abandoned in the grass, realizing that it may be important. Calmly, he bends down to pick the paper up from the grass, feeling that that object may reveal some important answer. The paper reveals that Tyria was a rank F swordsman, confirming that despite the weakness, the boy truly was an adventurer. The document in his hands confirms the identity of the body he now occupies, Tyria, a simple rank F swordsman. He looks at the paper with a serious expression, imagining how difficult the life of the real Tyria must have been. His mind wanders to the demon who mentioned a unique ability, something mysterious that he decides to investigate more deeply. But now he needs to take the exam that measures a person's aptitude and latent power, because the sum of strength and magic defines the exact value of each adventurer. He had not done this for years because his status never changed. He remembered Radion shouting that it was a waste of time. In the quiet hall of the guild, he goes to the reception to receive his information, and the paper with the results awaits his reading. The light illuminates the sheet in his hand. He takes a deep breath, ready to discover the real condition of this new body. With full focus, he turns his attention to the first page, seeking to read the basic status described there. Name Tyria, rank F, meager attributes, level E or F. The final notice highlights that the status are insufficient for use. Tyria is the name of the body. The magic is his, but the healer class confirms that he cannot use offensive attacks. He notes that divine prayer remains blocked, as his current attributes are still insufficient to use such magic. He reflects on the supreme ability mentioned by the demon, questioning whether his current configuration would allow its use. Sitting on the bench, he tries to understand how he obtained that without realizing it, confused by the emergence of these combat skills. When checking the second page, he is surprised to find two unexpected abilities, Smash and Automatic Mode. He recalls that Smash is a brute technique, typical of physical attack classes that use raw strength to crush. Being a healer, he concludes that the skill arose from being forced so often to fight using his staff like a club. His attention turns to Automatic Mode, suspecting that this is the legendary technique, one in a millennium mentioned. He scratches his chin, skeptical. Reading the simple description on the paper, it is hard to believe that something so feared is just that. Decided to put it to the test, he stands up to take a mission and test everything in practice, but something interrupts his plans. A group enters the place looking for someone. The blonde man, with an irritated expression, complains about not finding who he was looking for. The group leaves complaining, indignant that old Sotel disappeared without saying anything, leaving them hanging with no explanation. Tyria's eyes widen in panic, realizing that, distracted by his powers, he completely forgot about his former companions. At the notice board, they scoff at the loss of the useless member, focusing only on choosing a new mission that seems ideal. The silver-haired young woman worries whether he fainted, but the mage replies coldly that this is no longer their problem. The blonde warrior notices Tyria's presence and turns with hostility, rudely asking what the boy still wants. With a look of pure contempt, he warns that they are not a circus attraction, treating the former companion as a mere visual annoyance. The mage pulls Radon, insisting they ignore the boy and leave at once, while Tyria remains there, merely observing. They walk away complaining loudly that Sotel, besides being useless, only caused problems and disgust up to the moment of farewell. Alone on the guild bench, Tyria silently watches his former companions leave, gripping his document tightly. He remains stunned and breaking into a cold sweat, trying to process the gratuitous hostility and the strange situation he is in. He is shocked to realize that no one recognized him. Sweat runs as it sinks in, they did not see who he was. A heavy silence takes hold of him as he stares at the paper. Melancholy hits hard when he realizes that his past is gone. The document in his hands is the definitive proof of his new reality. Now he is only Tyria, a rank F healer. He remembers the three brutes he encountered right after waking up, realizing that to them he was just a stranger. Memories flow to the familiar faces of the guild, people he lived with, but who now see him as an outsider. Even his former party members passed by him without noticing anything. No one realized that Sotel was there. A new hope begins to shine in his eyes. If no one knows who he is, perhaps this is a chance to start over. He recalls the long years dragging his existence as an adventurer, carrying the weight of having given up on himself. Everything he did was for money, humiliating himself and obeying despicable people just to manage to survive. He smiles bitterly, remembering how he crawled for years in that miserable life, accepting scraps to survive. But now something changed inside him. The look of resignation gives way to a sharp and dangerous determination on his face. With force, his hands crumple the paper that defined his useless rank, rejecting the destiny that piece of trash dictated. He walks toward the exit with firm steps, determined to end that cycle of humiliation right now and forever. The city is left behind as he enters the dense forest, the perfect setting to test his new limits in practice. The challenge appears in the form of fierce wolves, a ranky mission that requires defeating 30 of these beasts to be completed. Without hesitation, he brandishes his staff like a lethal weapon, facing the beast that advances with bared fangs ready to kill. His eyes shine with blue energy as he activates the newly discovered ability, channeling brute force into the attack. The impact is devastating. The ability, Smash, connects directly, crushing the wolf's head with explosive violence. But there is no time to rest. 2 more wolves advance and he plants his stance, ready to repeat the dose and massacre them all. The blow connects with brutal violence, proving the immediate value of the ability as it hurls the wolf away with the impact. Victorious, he laments not having taken the exams earlier, realizing now how much he underestimated his own combat potential. A green aura envelopes him, indicating that the ability has evolved and causing a new wave of power to overflow in his body. The calm lasts little, as 3 new wolves emerge from the forest, running as a pack to avenge the fallen companion. Far from feeling fear, he smiles confidently, deciding that this is the perfect moment to test automatic mode. The beasts close the distance quickly, with bared fangs and eyes locked on their prey, ready to tear the boy apart. Ignoring the danger, he focuses all his attention on activating that mysterious ability the demon feared so much. Extending his hand toward the enemies, he gives the decisive command to release the hidden technique. Skill automatic mode. For a brief second, nothing happens. Silence reigns, and confusion takes over his face as he waits for a reaction. Suddenly, his body takes on a life of its own. Without his command, his muscles react and he launches into a swift charge. The blow connects with full force against the beast's jaw, a clean strike that sends the wolf flying backward violently. He stops, confused, holding the staff, wondering why the ability did not activate on its own as it should, already sensing that something seemed wrong. He looks at the paper again, rereading the instructions calmly as a new understanding begins to form in his mind. Reading the description of fully automatic, he notices the crucial detail. It affects the user and allies he names. With the theory in mind, he decides to test it now. The wolf charges fiercely, a mass of teeth and fury coming straight at him. This time he does not wait. His fist meets the beast in a devastating counterattack that halts the charge instantly. The impact is visceral, shattering teeth and deforming the monster's face, which did not expect such strength from an easy prey. Surrounded by light, he notices that the defense nullified the damage, and any scratch now heals on its own almost instantly. With attributes rising and the ability evolving with each use, he realizes the absurd waste it was to have ignored this before. The realization finally hits. The demons were not hunting him by chance. They truly feared the infinite potential of that power. Bathed in healing light, he feels renewed hope grow in his chest, realizing that he can start over from scratch. His eyes shine with electric intensity as the truth strikes him. That ability was never dormant. As he crushes the beast with his staff, he understands that the power was always active. He simply never noticed it. Because he always faced monsters far above his level, he never realized how much that technique was assisting him. His body feels light as a feather, and the wolf's movements turn into slow motion before his new perception. He smiles amid the combat, realizing that the ability's continuous support made him forget what it was like to be weak. The massacre ends with the beast's body scattered across the forest floor, defeated by the newly discovered strength. With his breathing still rapid from the battle's adrenaline, he looks again at the crumpled paper in his hand. Now the Demon King's fear makes sense. If he had discovered this earlier, his fate would have been different. But fate gave him a second chance. He grips the staff tightly, swearing that this time he will master this power. Bathed in blood and confidence, he declares that he will turn the tables and fully enjoy this second chance at life. His status now reflects reality. Sotel, rank F healer, but with offensive combat skills already at level 2. The view of the city is welcoming under the daylight. The movement in the streets contrasts with the violence of the forest he left behind. He walks with difficulty under the weight of an enormous bag, admitting to himself that he may have overdone it a bit. The goal was to slay 30 wolves, but he lost count and ended up hunting triple that, bringing back too much loot to carry. At the guild, an adventurer rudely demands attention. He leans over the counter with an insistent and invasive smile. The man grabs the receptionist Rosa's hand without permission, with a predatory grin, ignoring her clear discomfort. Rosa tries to laugh it off, but the cold sweat on her face reveals her fear as she tries to free herself from the man. The man interrupts the harassment when he notices movement at the door, turning with a mocking look to see who interrupted him. Rosa sighs in relief upon seeing Tyria, using his arrival as the perfect excuse to escape that tense situation. The boy arrives and throws the heavy sack onto the table with force, handing over the paper quickly, catching the receptionist by surprise. The impact is so heavy that it makes a loud crash. The girl recoils in fright, staring at the enormous sack that fell in front of her. Still stunned by the quantity, she lets out a confused sound, not understanding anything, while he simply waits calmly. The boy notices her strange look and becomes confused. He stares at her innocently and asks if he ended up doing something wrong. He lays the mission paper over the piled sacks, calmly explaining that he is only there to deliver the items. The receptionist reads the paper, breaking into a cold sweat. She notices that it is a Ranky mission, which required hunting only 30 wolves in the forest. Upon seeing the number 30, she freezes. He scratches his head awkwardly, opens the sack to show the fangs and apologizes for the excess. He admits that he hunted a bit more. Around them, the other adventurers whisper, shocked by that novice's ability. Seeing her hesitation, he grows worried, thinking that it will cause trouble. The girl tries to say something, still stunned by everything. Suddenly, her face lights up. With a radiant smile, she shouts that it was incredible and congratulates him for completing the mission. The girl says in shock that she has never seen a healer do that and suggests rank D. He thanks her, surprised by the compliment. He reflects that, in his first life, everyone feared him. Seeing that sincere smile now brings a new sensation to him. He closes his eyes, feeling the lightness of the moment. Youth really brings a wonderful sense of freshness. Suddenly, a rude guy cuts into his moment of peace. The guy behind him tells him to get out of the way already without patience. The man stares at him with contempt, asking if he is a newbie. He responds vaguely, trying to avoid trouble. Looking at the sack, the guy snorts. He calls the boy cheeky but admits that he has courage for carrying all that. Pointing a finger, he accuses the boy of wanting attention. He doubts that a novice healer could hunt that much alone. Keeping calm, the protagonist turns around slowly. He stares at the man and asks what he thinks happened then. With a mocking smile, the guy blurts out his theory. He says that someone must have sent the kid to buy those items. The protagonist shoots a cold look back. He questions the stupid logic, asking what he would gain by doing that. The man laughs scornfully, calling him weak to his face. He boasts, saying that he is very different from the newbie there. Showing off his muscles, he claims that he does his missions alone and that his arms are twice the size of the boy's. The receptionist laughs nervously. The protagonist quickly realizes the play. The brute is just trying to impress the girl. The guy presses him, wanting him to confess. The bored protagonist simply reaffirms that he hunted all of that by himself. The man pounds on the sack in disbelief. He shouts that wolves have magical resistance and that a healer would never manage it. Scratching his back with the staff, the boy answers calmly, admitting that, unfortunately, he does not use attack magic. He grips the staff firmly and explains his simple method. He just beat the monsters down until they fell. The man bursts into laughter, finding everything amusing. He mocks him, calling the boy a brute, despite his fragile appearance. The protagonist sighs, seeing the other's stubbornness. He notices that the man will not believe anything that is said. The man's smile suddenly disappears. He leans in with an intimidating look, asking why he has that face. He turns his back indifferently, saying that it does not matter what they think because they will not see each other again. The man snaps at the disrespect. He clenches his fist hard and shouts furiously, thinking that the boy thinks too highly of himself. In a fraction of a second, the protagonist's gaze changes. A sharp blue energy shines intensely in his eye. Blinded by rage, the brute throws a violent punch, aiming directly at our boy's head. The blow connects, but drops of blood drip onto the ground. The boy remains firm like an iron wall. The aggressor retreats screaming in pain, clutching his injured hand, while the youth remains standing, completely unharmed. He grabs his wrist, trembling with pain and hatred. Blood runs as he tries to process what happened. His hand is raw. He stares at the protagonist in disbelief, shouting and demanding to know what he did. With an innocent look, he tells the receptionist that he did nothing, suggesting that it is just his passive defense. But the truth shines on his forehead. A green magical symbol pulses there, revealing that at this moment he is being healed. A system window appears in his mind. His healing and reflex attributes have automatically evolved to level 2 now. A boy observes the aggressor's broken hand with coldness. He casually comments that it must have hurt quite a lot indeed. Holding the throbbing wrist, the man breaks out in a cold sweat. The protagonist looks at him with pity, thinking about how pathetic he is. The humiliation makes the man's blood boil. He grinds his teeth hard, unable to accept that he was injured by a newbie. Consumed by fury, he quickly draws his sword. He is determined to wash away that shame using lethal force now. He charges, shouting that he will never forgive him. With the blade raised, he prepares a vertical strike full of murderous intent. Time stops. The system analyzes the enemy's high posture and predicts a descending strike coming quickly from the right. The sword comes down, cutting through the air, but finds nothing. The protagonist dodges to the side easily, leaving the aggressor in shock. The system keeps reading everything. The alert appears, warning that the next movement will be a horizontal cut coming from the left. Seeing the blade approaching, he realizes something. His reflexes are sharp enough to react in time against the other strike. He realizes, fascinated, that his brain and muscles are in total sync, responding to every command. The attack passes, slicing through the air. He steps back lightly, narrowly escaping the blade. The crowd recognizes his skill. The aggressor boils with rage, feeling the dishonor of being outmatched. Blinded by murderous fury, he completely loses his head. He screams that he will kill him, ignoring everything around him. With a piercing gaze, the protagonist warns that those are strong words and threatens to make him feel their weight. Enough of just dodging. He clenches his fist hard, deciding that now it is his turn to go on the offensive. With a fast and brutal movement, the brute twists his body and swings the sword with all his strength at the opponent. The aggressor charges again but is caught off guard by the absurd speed of the protagonist's dodge. Cursing in rage, the brute throws himself forward in a desperate move, trying to hit the protagonist. The attack grazes past, violently slicing the air where the protagonist's head had been a fraction of a second before. The protagonist clenches his fist with conviction, reminding the opponent that both of them there are adventurers. Ignoring the danger of the blade, he closes the distance in an instant, winding up a devastating punch. His eyes shine with absolute focus. He warns that there are no hard feelings for what he is about to do. The fist breaks through the guard and explodes against the enemy's chin before the sword can come down. The impact is visceral. The man's face deforms under the crushing pressure of that direct blow. The kinetic force is so great that the warrior's body is lifted off the ground and hurled backward. He flies uncontrollably across the hall until he collides violently against the wooden wall at the back. The protagonist watches the scene, stunned. He lets out a sound of surprise, not understanding his own strength. He wonders if he leveled up a skill, but the system denies it. A shocking realization hits him now. The status window shines. His attributes have grown and his class has finally risen to rank E. Suddenly, a bucket falls on top of the extra's head, leaving him surprised. The sword flies far away, spinning in the air until it sticks into the ground with a metallic sound that echoes through the silence of the hall. The other adventurers watch with their mouths open, unable to believe the strength of that supposed healer. The protagonist approaches slowly and, seeing the man's pitiful state, genuinely asks if he is okay. He realizes that he may have overdone the strength. A drop of sweat runs down as the atmosphere grows heavy. The man bends over, choking and spitting on the floor, completely nauseated by the punch that turned his stomach. The awkward protagonist asks if the extra is okay, but the aggressor stares at him in terror as if seeing a monster. His face burns with shame. Being defeated and humiliated in front of everyone is unbearable for his ego. He gets up, stumbling over his own legs, stuttering in fear as he tries to flee from there as fast as possible. In the clumsy rush to escape, he does not look ahead and ends up colliding forcefully with someone in his path. The protagonist looks at the group that was pushed. One of them laughs a bit awkwardly and the boy just smiles back, keeping calm. The warriors approach him quickly. The biggest of them opens his arms exaggeratedly, walking toward him. Without warning, the man grabs him by the neck in a bear hug, catching the boy completely off guard. The warrior cheers, shouting that he was incredible and that proud coward will never again have the courage to show up there. Overly excited, he starts rubbing the boy's head hard, while the poor protagonist tries to break free. The mess only stops when the receptionist calls out to them. The giant freezes instantly upon hearing the girl's firm voice. With a sweet smile, she sincerely thanks him and apologizes for having involved him in that unnecessary confusion. He frees himself from the tight hug and reassures the girl, assuring her that she had no fault at all in what happened there. Even with his kindness, the girl lowers her gaze, still feeling guilty and hesitant about the whole situation. He smiles carefree, telling her to relax because he only hit the guy since he really did not like his face. The girl is stunned for a moment, surprised by the answer so direct and unpretentious that she received. Soon, a genuine smile spreads. She thanks him warmly, touched by his unexpected kindness. With the conflict resolved, the group relaxes. He adjusts his equipment, ready to leave the guild. Outside, dusk arrives. The orange light of the sunset bathes the rooftops and the streets of the city. The main street is full of life. he walks among the people and lets out a long sigh of relief. He continues on his way through the stone streets, ignoring the movement around him as he gets lost in thought. His mind revisits the absurd day. He died, came back to life, and even cleared a mission alone in the forest. Looking up, his face relaxes. Physical exhaustion cannot erase the satisfaction he feels. Contemplating the bright horizon, he admits to himself that despite everything, it was fun. He recalls the decades of failure as a rank F healer, unable to use offensive magic or evolve. Raising his hand against the sunlight, he feels the reality of this new chance pulse through his own veins. Looking at the city, he concludes that living this new life in a capable body might not be such a bad idea after all. His thoughts fly to the future. He considers traveling right now to the great city of Baldaria. The memory goes back 3 months in time. He remembers the last visit and the food stalls in the market. It was a terrible time. He vividly recalls how he fell into a monster trap and almost died there. But the hunger now is different. He grips the staff's handle, determined to eat until he cannot take it anymore this time. In his past life, beside Radiant's group, he could never dream of a banquet or freedom like this. While they devoured juicy meat in front of him, he was forced to eat only vegetables in silence. Worst of all was when Shiero, with that look of pity, offered him a measly leftover piece. The indigestion was so violent that he could barely stand. The memory of that day still turns his stomach. But now everything has changed. With this new strong and healthy body, he feels that he can devour the whole world without getting sick. Doubts about how and why flood his mind, but he decides to ignore them. The past is already gone, and dwelling on it will not help. Accepting reality is the best path now. He enters the inn, determined to rest and focus only on tomorrow. Decision made, there is no time to lose. He smiles full of energy, ready to organize his departure at dawn. In the room, he begins to arrange his belongings. The old backpack is prepared carefully for the long journey to come. Sitting on the wooden floor, he folds his humble clothes with a smile on his face, eager for the new adventure. Excitement takes over him. He feels exactly like a small child on the eve of a school trip. With the potions and equipment organized, he takes a deep breath. Everything is ready, and the feeling of duty fulfilled calms him. But suddenly he notices something wrong. An unexpected problem arises, threatening to disrupt his perfect plans. He observes his own body and comments, impressed, that the boy actually had a well-built physique for his age. He looks around and notices that he needs clothes because the ones he wears are too old. Pulling the collar of the shirt, he feels the worn fabric and realizes that that outfit does not match his new body. After spending some time, he decides to cook something, and with a pot on the fire, the contents boil intensely, releasing hot steam and a bubbling sound. Careful not to burn himself, he holds the hot pot with thick gloves, moving it with great attention. Inside, a purple potion made with 7 medicinal herbs and seasonings, infused directly with his magical power. With an enigmatic smile on his face, he ironically questions who would have given the name toxic to that mixture. He admits that the color is a bit rough, but confidently assures that the potion's effectiveness is guaranteed. Suddenly, the door is struck violently, shattering with a loud crash that breaks the peace of the place. Caught by surprise, he quickly turns with the pot in hand, startled by the sudden invasion and the debris. Then he turns and begins to shout, asking the intruder what he is doing. If you enjoyed this summary, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to find out what happens to the overpowered healer in part 2.